For right now, normal retirement. Everybody has one normal retirement date in your entire career, and that is the first day of the month after your 65th birthday. If you leave before age 65, it's considered an early retirement. If you leave after 65, it's considered a postponed retirement. The key point about age 65 is no reductions of any kind apply regardless of service. At age 65, you get to keep 100% of whatever pension benefit you have earned, regardless of how much service you have. The other key thing about age 65 is, of course, while it is still considered in Canada to be the normal retirement age, there is no longer mandatory retirement. And that means that each person in this room controls your own destiny in terms of timing your retirement. And until you tell Air Canada that you plan on retiring, they expect you to be at work. You can be 83 years old, and if you haven't told them you're retiring and you don't show up at work, you're going into time and attendance program. So it's up to you to notify the company when you wish to retire and set that process in motion. They no longer automatically do it. So, as tempting as that may be to work to age 83, you decide that you want to take advantage of what are the most generous early retirement provisions of any pension plan in Canada that is not a first responder pension plan. And you want to go when you attain either 25 years of qualifying service or 80 points of age plus qualifying service, right? When you hit either of those two milestones, you're eligible for a monthly pension and you can retire. However, if you want to keep 100% of your pension that you have earned and not take an actuarial reduction, you must also be age 55. And you must have the consent of the company, which is, at this point, a small technical detail that I'll talk about on a slide or so. So you can retire at any time after 25 or 80, but you must also be age 55 if you want an unreduced pension. So the consent provision. You will have seen this in the daily every 3 months since November, December 2013. And the blurb says that the Air Canada Board of Directors has met and they've granted consent for following quarter. There was one at the beginning of this month after the November Board of Directors meeting that said it's now extended out to May 1st of 2019. In February of 2019, when the Board of Directors meets again for the quarterly meeting, you will see an announcement in the daily early in February that's going to extend it out to August 1st of 2019. And then when they meet again in May, you'll see when it extends out to November. This dance every 3 months has gone on since this came into effect on January 1st of 2014. The consent provision is in our pension plan because the IAM proposed it. This is how we kept the 25 and 80 and age 55. Air Canada did not want the consent provision. They just wanted to change this to 30, 60, 90. They wanted to make a 5% reduction in payments and pension. They wanted to drop your benefit below the YMPE from 1.75 to 1.3, and a number of other drastic changes that we were less than enthusiastic about. And in addition to, or instead of that, we proposed this. We explained it to the company once they understood it, and found out how much money it saved them. And by the way, it saved them more money than if we had made all of those reductions in our pension plan combined. They decided that they would extend this to all of their pension plans. And so now every pension plan in Canada except the pilots, and the pilots have a different arrangement, and so I'm not going to go down that road, but all of the plans, including the executive plan, have this consent provision. Why? Because in total, this saves Air Canada more than $1 billion a year in pension contributions. It allows them, the consent allows them to change the way the actuaries can value the plan each year. And they don't have to, if you're not 55 and 80, so, excuse me, for all the people in the room who put up your hand earlier and said you didn't have 80 points, you weren't age 55, when they do the valuation for you people at the end of this year, they will value you as getting 100% pension at age 65 and not at the end of this year. For anybody like myself who's already north of 55 and already has 80 points, I'm locked in, so they had to value me at full value. But by using that deferred date to say, well, you don't get 100% until age 65 when we do the valuation, the paper exercise, for the IM plan, that saves them $400 million. $1 billion across the company. So it's a hypothetical solution for a hypothetical problem. What if Air Canada went out of business and wound up, would there be enough money in the plan? Well, the answer today is a resounding yes. There's 139% in there. But at that time, we were underfunded, right? And it saved them a lot of money. And it's no coincidence that the first year that the consent provision came in, which was 2014, when they did the valuation on 1/1/15, was the first valuation in 12 years that Air Canada's pension plan was back in surplus. And this is a major contributor as to why that happened in that year. So this is extended with the collective agreement. We put it into 2011 collective agreement. It was renewed in 2016 and will go out to 2026. And in 2026, for those of you that are still here on the property working, I expect that they'll extend it again for the length of the next collective agreement after that. So, early retirement, termination reduction. As soon as I get 25 or 80, I'm eligible to retire. However, if I'm not also age 55, my pension is subject to an actuarial reduction from age 65. Has nothing to do with how much service. It is solely a function of your age relative to age 65. The younger you are, the larger the reduction. Why? Because the pension has to be paid for a larger period of time, and you didn't meet the threshold for a non-reduced pension. The actuarial reduction is based on an actuarial reduction formula, which is hence the name. For approximation purposes, it's approximately 6% per year compounded. One of the parts of the actual formula is the percentage rate that is in effect on the date that you terminate from the company. So anytime you ask for or see an actuarial reduction applied to your pension for a future date, it is an estimate, because they cannot know with certainty any future interest rate until that date has passed. The actuarial reduction, I'll show you the next page, factors in. The percentage, the interest rate percentage is a plus or minus. So it's not a huge difference. So I'll show you here at age 55, 46%. This is an approximation of the reduction in your pension if you leave before 55. So depending on where the interest rate goes, this might be 45, 44, 43, 47, whatever. So it'll vary a little bit, plus or minus, but this is in the magnitude of what we're talking about. Anybody who leaves before 55, you're looking at this magnitude of reduction, which is why, of course, you're still continuing to work. Very few people leave before 55 anymore. Actually, not a lot of people left before 55. When we were looking at the demographic statistics in 2011, when we proposed consent, we brought this in. The average retirement age in 2011 from the IAM pension plan was 58.75 years of age. That's when our average member left. And we had less than 2% of our membership leave before age 55. So 98% of our members already stayed past age 55 at that point in time. This is done like everything else in whole months. For simplicity, I've simply shown years, but between 55 and 56, for each month that goes by, you'll see a slight change between 46 and 42% as an example. This reduction works like a light switch. It's on, it's off. What do I mean by that? For anybody that's waiting for age 55, if you do a pension projection for the first day of the month before your 55th birthday, you will see dollar values shown for your pension. And those dollar values incorporate a reduction of this magnitude. If you then go in and you do a pension calculation for the first day of the month after your 55th birthday, so in other words, the first day you're eligible for non-reduced pension, you will notice a difference between those two pension amounts of about 45, 46%. And I did this myself before I turned 55. So that's your homework assignment. For anybody here that doesn't yet have 80 points, for anybody that doesn't yet have age 55, go in and do two pension projections 1 month apart. And so, spoiler alert, for anybody that's not yet at an unreduced pensionable age, if you're not yet 55, if you don't yet have 80 points, as soon as you open up the pension projector, it automatically defaults to the first month that you're eligible for non-reduced pension. So in other words, they already show you first time every time you go in what your pension is the first day after your 55th birthday or the first day of the month after you hit your 80 points, whichever of those two things happens last. So there's your after without the reduction. Then go back in 30 days sooner and do the first day of the month before your birthday, and you'll see that difference in that magnitude. So as soon as you hit that age 55, that 55th birthday, that 1 month of service is literally worth 45, 46% of your pension. So it's 30 days in the pension plan. And as soon as you get past that, it's gone, and it's gone for the rest of your career. The reason I have these figure reductions up here is I'm over 55, but I don't yet have 80 points. I started with the company late. When I was in Halifax, there was a gentleman who worked in cargo. He was age 40 when he joined the company. He was 58. So he's 58 with 18 years of service. He gets 76 points. So if he goes anytime between this year and next year in 2 years from now when he turns 60, his reduction would be somewhere 26 to 35%, depending on exactly how old he was when he decided to pull the trigger. If he waits till he gets to 60 and his age and his service to the month add up to 80 points, his reduction goes to 0. And of course this exists right up to age 65 for anybody that doesn't have 80 points in the plan. So that's how they save $1 billion. Disability retirement is a medical retirement for anybody with 15 years of service or more with the company. If you are sick, injured, disabled, unable to perform any job function for the company, you have the ability to apply for a medical disability pension. Similar to the Canada Pension Plan disability, but a separate pension, separate application, separate process. This is a medical process. It is initiated by the employee. There is a form on the Aeronet that you would download. You will fill it out. More appropriately, your doctor will fill it out, and your doctor will outline all of the reasons medically why you are unable to work for Air Canada and why you should get a disability pension. The company doctors then look at this information and they decide one of two things. They either agree, yes, you cannot perform a job function for Air Canada, or they say, no, you're just lazy and you don't want to work. And if that's the case, then you have the ability to appeal to an independent third-party medical specialist who specializes, they'll bring in somebody who specializes in whatever your illness or injury is, and they will acting as a binding arbitrator looking at the medical evidence and say, yes, you should get the pension, no, you should not. That's the end of the process. So a couple of points about the disability pension, similar to the Canada Pension Plan disability. It pays you a higher dollar value to age 65. You get paid the maximum 2% benefit on all of your earnings until age 65. The other key thing about disability pension is, it says here, payable as if you're 65, no penalties. No reduction, no actuarial reduction. I'm 40 years of age, I've got 20 years of service. I get injured, I can't return to work. So I don't get punished with a 70% reduction in my pension because I'm only 40. My pension will be based on my 20 years times my earnings times the formula. I get to keep 100% of that, right? Because you're deemed to have involuntarily terminated from the pension plan. They use the same thing when you die, actually. When you die, you're deemed to have involuntarily terminated from the pension plan. Nobody chooses to get injured, nobody chooses to die. And even if on the odd chance you did choose to die by your own hand, you're still treated as an involuntary termination in terms of the plan. So what that means is you will not be subject to the actuarial reductions that would normally apply because you're under age 55. And then once you turn 65, you get your normal pension, whatever you would have gotten at 65. Instead of the 2% on everything, now you get to 1.75, 2%, etc. So terminations. Doesn't mean you've been fired. It means you have chosen to leave Air Canada before you have hit the pension milestone, before you have 25 years of qualifying service, before you have 80 points of age and qualifying service. If you leave under those circumstances, you're deemed to have terminated from the pension plan, and your options are different than if you hit a retirement milestone. In this case, your options are essentially two. You can take the money as a lump sum and commuted value transfer, and transfer it out to a locked-in RRSP or another pension plan if you've gone with another company that will accept the buy-in of service, and then that terminates your membership in the Air Canada plan. If you do that, of course, you're subject to that actuarial reduction. If that does not interest you in taking a 40 or 50 or 60 or 70% reduction in your pension, you always have the ability to defer your pension to age 65. Why? Because at age 65, no penalties of any kind apply, regardless of service. So you can always choose to take a reduction. You can never be forced to take a reduction. That's entirely your decision. Anytime you have 70 points or more, you can opt for an immediate monthly pension. It'll be reduced. Again, it'll be actually reduced, but if I don't want to take a lump sum and move it out, and I don't want to wait to 65, I'll take whatever pension is I get each month. So those are your options under termination. You can defer to 65 and get it unreduced. You can take it early as a lump sum, or if you have more than 70 points as a monthly pension. However, it will be actuarially reduced.